Welcome to Live Long and Podcast. I'm Dave Mater, and I'm joined tonight by Jane.
Hello.
And Tyrone.
Howdy.
And we are covering Star Trek Discovery, Season 2, Episode 9, Project Daedalus. Daedalus. So it's been a minute since we did our last episode. It's been a busy few weeks, so we are kind of catching up, not just on Episode 9, but I think a few episodes. I can't remember actually what the number was on the last one we did.
5.
Okay, so we're catching up on 4 episodes.
My last one, actually.
Yeah, and we're actually skipping a couple big ones in there, so I think we'll touch on those as well. In particular, the last episode that took us finally back to Talos 4, which kind of was a nice little love letter to the classic original pilot and series and everything like that, and finally we got introduced to Spock. Played by Ethan Peck, Gregory Peck's grandson. Yes, that's right. But now that we're finally kind of past like this incoherent Spock, this kind of delirious, lost his marbles for lack of a better term. Now we have sort of Spock back with his faculties.
I think the issue was all of his marbles were there all at once, and he couldn't unscramble.
That's what it was, right? And so he needed the Telosians to sort of fix this. They were like the mechanic. He had to go into the shop, get a tune-up, or an oil change in the mind, and all that happened. There was a couple. For me, there was some tough episodes in there. In particular, the one where captured by Section 31.
Oh, the one before, yeah.
And they were before they went to Talos 4, and they were doing experiments on them and everything like that. But these last 2 episodes in particular have been, I thought, really great. And in particular, I really like this episode tonight that we're covering, Project Daedalus. Which they don't pay off till the end. It's like the last line of the episode. So the episode's not even really about Project Daedalus, or Daedalus, however it's said. So, but just kind of initial feedback. How'd you feel about this episode tonight?
I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed last week as well.
Yeah.
I was feeling really down about it until I watched last week's episode. So I'm really feeling good about this show again.
You were feeling, I'd say the same thing. Like I was feeling down, I think, because it's been 4 episodes. Because 5 was the last one we did.
5 was the last one, yeah.
Right, and so... Yeah, there was the one where I think they finally found Spock. There was all this kind of family melodrama.
Yes. With
the Sarek, Manda Grayson clan. That for me, that was a tough episode to get through. And then they finally they have Spock, and then she breaks them off the ship because she thinks they need to go somewhere. They get captured by Section 31. They do the torture. They escape again, and finally But they're headed to Talos 4, and I feel like when they finally get to Talos 4, that was where I was like, okay, now the show is like brought me back in.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of, I feel like the series or the season in general is kind of back on track, because there's been a lot of this like intrigue with the Red Angel. What does it mean?
Who is it? We
know it's somebody from the future. They're wearing a silver catsuit, so that's how they know it's very advanced technology.
Is it 7 of 9?
It could be. She used to wear a silver catsuit. I don't know. I still don't really know what's going on with who this from the future is. But basically what the plot has been established in this show is that the Red Angel is trying to warn them from the future. There's a future in which all sentient life in the galaxy will be eradicated. That's the Delta Quadrant, the Gamma Quadrant, the Beta.
Which no one's been to.
Yeah, no one's been to there yet. No. But presumably the Talaxians of yesteryear are under threat right now because of these 7 red dots in the sky, which presumably you can see from anywhere in the galaxy, right? That's kind of the idea of this.
Don't they appear and disappear?
But when they appear in the same places, right? Like each time?
No, they move.
Spock got the vision of the 7. That's a hole, I guess, because the fact is that, he's seen the 7 signals, but the 7 signals haven't all appeared. They're appearing sort of sequentially.
Oh.
So is it that they all appeared once and went, hey, look at us, and now they're coming back one at a time? Right, because you get the first one that's in the asteroid field where they rescue Jet Reno and the Hiawatha.
Janet Reno.
And then Jet
Reno, not Janet.
No, not Janet.
I remember the Will Ferrell Janet Reno from SNL back in the 90s. Okay, yeah, they got the first. That was the first point, right?
Yeah, and that's where the Red Angel appears to someone. In this case, Burnham.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second appearance is over what they call it, New Elysium or something like that.
Yeah, it was like
colony.
New Teresium or New Earth of some kind.
Yeah,
but it was in the Beta Quadrant. It was quite a distance away.
Yeah. And it wasn't actually... There was no appearance of the Red Angel on that one, though. But there was still a threat, an existential threat to the population.
Wasn't, though, they had the helmet cam from, the soldier of...
Right.
And did that show the Red Angel?
Yes.
Okay, so that was the next connection.
Because the Red Angel brought them there.
Yeah, Red Angel by proxy, I guess.
Okay, so 2 down, 5 to go. Is there any others?
And then Kaminar.
Kaminar.
The Sarah's planet.
The
Red Angel appears there.
Oh, okay, so that's the third point.
That's the third point, yes.
Okay.
Yes, where the Kelpians get all moody.
Oh, right. It's the whole Kelpian kind of civil rights movement against the black ooze people.
Yes, the Star Trek debenters.
Yeah, when these guys showed up, I was like, I don't know. If you get subjugated by these guys, I don't think you're doing too good. It's
they seem like they were aquatic.
Yeah, they're kind of amphibious, and they're kind of gross.
Really gross.
Yeah.
But they're a warp-capable species.
Yeah,
somehow,
and very unpleasant.
Very unpleasant, and are they eating the Kelpians? We're not sure. Or would the Kelpians used to eat them?
I think the Kelpians probably maybe ate them at one point. I don't know that they're eating them. I think they're killing them off.
Just so they don't reach this Zen state where they're not afraid anymore.
Well, where they lose their threat ganglia there, all their delicious bits.
When they go through Kelpian menopause, or is it a puberty?
I think it's probably more like puberty.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's more of a growing into yourself, right?
Yeah.
But Saru's not a young man. He's
we don't know how long Kelpians live.
We don't know. Okay, we don't know where he is on the maturity process.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so that was an episode we had skipped, and then that's where he's where I thought he was extremely reckless, and I feel like he has not got enough flack for any of that. I get it, helping his people escape oppression and everything, but he has other interests as a Starfleet officer and duties as the first officer of this ship.
I think Pike was giving him a break for evolution.
I guess the Prime Directive was a little murky in this because he is part of the natural development of the species, but
they've already made contact with the I forget the name of the warp capable ones and just been told to stay away.
Yeah,
so it's
the ooze people.
Yeah, it's like a half and half thing.
That was when. So then I think it was after that. That's when they find Spock, right? We have the melodrama.
She goes back to Vulcan.
Okay. Yes, she goes back to Vulcan because she doesn't know where else to go.
And she figures out that Amanda knows something.
Yeah, she's like, you know something.
Yeah.
Let's talk, because really, these last 2 episodes in particular have been kind of really showing us that Spock and Michael Burnham, well, how do we put it? They have some issues. We knew they had some issues. We knew they had a falling out, but
he was a young.
He was 6.
Yeah,
and she was 12, maybe. And
you'd think they would have gotten over it.
And he told her, okay. So this is the part I'm having a hard time reconciling with their relationship. Is that this happened when they were 6 and 12, respectively. Presumably, 6 years later, she goes off to Starfleet Academy.
Yeah,
when she's or the Vulcan Science Academy. She didn't go to Starfleet Academy. He did. Sarek wanted them both to go to the Vulcan Science Academy. And what was that was a season 1 thing they showed where he had to choose between the children. He chose for Spock to go to the Vulcan Science Academy, but ultimately he decided not to do that anyway, and he went to Starfleet Academy.
Yes,
as
a giant FU to his dad.
Yeah, his dad was not impressed with this too much. Never was.
Yeah.
But then Michael Burnham eventually does go to the Vulcan Science
Did she?
Academy.
Are we sure she did go to there?
She did eventually. Yeah. I think they set that up in season 1 in the flashbacks. I don't know. I'm just trying to piece together the chronology of their childhood and exactly what happened.
Well, it seems like it would be a frosty 6 years if that was the defining moment so early on in their relationship.
Yeah, maybe they've been living together for a year. Yeah. And she does it because there was these Vulcan extremists. Logic extremists. Yes. And of course, these logic extremists will logically get to the point of violence, I suppose, is the threat.
Well, are these the same people from Enterprise?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they were set up in Enterprise, so they're not. It's not out. I get that it's not out of the question.
And they're in the books too. It was a long and illustrious history of Vulcan assholes.
Yeah, there's a lot. Even when they're good and they're not extremists, they're still kind of dicks. Most of them. There have been some exceptions here and there, but anyway, so when they finally see each other again as adults, it is not a warm reunion. We see this once Spock sort of has his mind back together, his faculties about him. He's quite hostile, I would say.
Oh yeah. He seems like a 10-year-old child still.
Yeah. He calls her arrogant. He tells her off. He doesn't really want to talk to her too much. It's not very Vulcan of him. Now we know that he eventually has to get to this point where he is Leonard Nimoy Spock. Mm-hmm. And when he's not interacting with Michael,
he's much better.
But even Leonard Nimoy Spock, if you go back to the cage, still like that. That was the one place where they showed him smiling in the original series, right? So he's still at that age. He's still feeling around
who he is.
So he's not fully committed to the Vulcan way of life in his early years. That seems to be what is established in this chronology.
And he comes full circle on that too, right? So he goes from being having some show of emotion early on, and then he goes into, your more logical and then pure logic in the motion picture where he goes off for Kolinahr, and then
that's right.
When he comes to the end of the sort of the movie franchises and stuff, he's embracing again his humanity.
Yeah, so he's always kind of straddling this line of two worlds, but in most of the original series, in the Kirk years, he is fully in the Vulcan camp. He's committed to the Vulcan way of life. Yes. He doesn't even to be called human is almost insulting to him in the original series. I think he makes him.
I think that's him just nettling McCoy.
Yeah,
while McCoy's nettling him.
Yeah, true. So anyway, but I would say just in general, what do we think of this performance of Ethan Peck as Spock so far? Because this is the prime timeline. This is what CBS tells us, and so therefore this version of Spock will grow into the Leonard Nimoy version. Just how they're, it's not, I keep trying to reconcile, you're retconning it, so you're kind of, you're giving it this world. I'd say that the world of Star Trek Discovery fits better into the world even of Next Generation and those shows than the original series did, because the original series is very much a product of the 60s and of how shows were made during that time. Comparing it to other things I Dream of Jeannie and other primetime family shows, I suppose, of that era. And you even look at Doctor Who and how they've progressed over the years, how Doctor Who started to what it became. But they've in the case of Doctor Who, when they go back and they say, okay, we're going to go meet the first Doctor or whatever, they tend to stay pretty faithful to the original source material. They even go out of their way to get actors who look exactly like those actors did 50, 60 years ago. Mm. And I think that's often been this debate with Discovery is how does it fit into canon, because it feels so different than the Cage, the Menagerie, the original series.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but does that really fit into to the progression of the series? No.
Not really.
Yeah, I get that.
So you have to you have to extend your imagination a little bit and imagine that. Okay, well, I guess the Jeffrey Hunter version of Pike was actually more like this Anson Mount version of Pike, and the events, the way they're portraying things like Talos 4 and everything else is sort of being retconned to be a little bit more modern. Yeah. This is not feeling like we're on a soundstage in Los Angeles in 1965 or whatever.
So how did you guys feel when you started the last week's episode and you saw the beginning with
I thought it was cool.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
I was shocked.
Oh.
Shocked.
Shocked that they were doing it?
That they were even doing it.
Yeah. No, I thought that was great.
Yeah, they're previously on Star Trek.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Because and that felt that I was like, that's kind of been the Doctor Who approach, where they're like, I think even when they did that Christmas special a few years ago, where the 12th Doctor met the first Doctor, and they said 700 episodes ago, this was going on, so we're going to cross over with that. So like kind of like saying, we embrace the old stuff. We're just kind of adding on top of it, and you have to kind of connect the dots here a little bit. And
yeah, I mean, you get the original series is so far removed from the visual storytelling of now. It's like you can't have a new ship that is full of toggle buttons.
No.
Yeah.
With all of the sort of advancement in storytelling that you've got from 1966 to now, right?
Right. And that when they were making like Enterprise and even Deep Space Nine, when they would go back and like cross over with this particular time period in the Star Trek timeline, they were always extremely faithful to it. Yeah. Maybe too much so that now we're in this pickle today where we're going, well, is this really the Star Trek, or is this really your daddy's Star Trek, or is this something else?
Well, I think it's more about the storytelling and the ideals. I think you can let go of the visual differences. I mean, Enterprise did a really good job of making something seem older than everything else.
Yeah.
And I think actually the Deep Space Nine crossover, it was Trials and Tribulations or something like that.
That's right. Trials and Tribulations.
That was 100% just delight for fans kind of thing. So, it kind of made sense, and it allowed them to do the visual gags and all that other stuff.
Yeah, they were doing the whole Forrest Gump thing where we're going to throw them in here with JFK or, and it worked. It worked super well at the time. But what they were kind of saying, even with an episode like Trials and Tribulations, was like, this is exactly how it was during this time period. Yeah. So that got established in Star Trek 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Right? That they didn't choose to retcon anything when they did that.
Yeah. But that was also before the advent of prequels.
That was true.
Mm-hmm.
And so, anyway, so now we're saying, so when that...
and you only had to manage that for 42 minutes.
Right. and now it's a little different because we got the fact that they chose to set Discovery in this time period, they've made Spock and this whole history part of the show. I don't know. I feel like it's as much of a liberating thing as it is like an obstacle where you just you're constantly having to work around these things. And just think about these actors who constantly have to have one foot in with the previous performance, and then also add something new and put their own take on it. I feel like that's a hard line to walk, really. Most of the time.
How do you think Pike is doing?
Well, I think Pike is one of the standout parts of the show, really.
He's amazing, yeah.
Oh, yeah. But he had less to work with, so the canvas
was make it
was
his
freer.
own.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like there wasn't... Yeah, he only had that one episode. That's
two, but the other one, he was in a wheelchair and could only go beep once for yes,
right.
beep twice for no.
Yeah. So he could take from that what he will in terms of his personality. But generally, there's not a lot he has to do with. Not as much as with like Ethan Peck, for instance, who has to be Spock, who's this iconic performance. One of the all-time most beloved characters, not just in Star Trek, but kind of in general pop culture, lore, and sci-fi and genre and all that. And even like on the last week's episode where we had what's her name, Lena? Vina. Vina was played by Melissa George from 30 Days a Night. She was...
And Grey's Anatomy.
Yes, don't forget the Grey's Anatomy. That's why we get these Grey's Anatomy voiceovers from Michael Burnham.
Did we get one last episode? We didn't. There was no close.
No, I don't think. No. They
haven't done them lately as much.
Good.
I think I think the episodes are better without these voiceovers where Michael Burnham's like, guess what? Okay, I gotta catch you up on the Red Angel. I gotta tell you all about what's happening here. There's some future. Like that was one of the worst things where they were like doing like the beginning episode, and she's like, guess what? We got a Red Angel. It's got future technology. And we're
like, how do you know that?
This is cringy, man. This is no good. Just let it play out. If we're watching it from week to week, you don't have to catch us up on this. Or the whole point is
Ethan Peck's doing a good job.
Ethan Peck, I think, is doing a good job.
Yes.
I think he's got this monotone baritone voice. Even if he wasn't Spock, if you just told me he was playing like some other Vulcan, I would like this performance just because I think it's compelling, and I feel like he's kind of different, and you want to watch him. And even when he's having his little spats with Michael, which I don't think with another actor I would necessarily be into. I think he makes it work. I think they in general are making those scenes work. And I hope it doesn't go on for too much longer. I think
it'll be interesting to see how that actually resolves, because how do you still explain that? I guess you just ignore the fact that this, the Burnham character was never mentioned anywhere throughout any part of Star Trek. So you've either got, it has to almost end sort of middling kind of thing, because if you hate a sibling, you bitch about them.
Yeah.
You love a sibling, you talk about them.
They die.
Yeah. There's something.
I think, maybe there's a wound. Michael Burnham dies in the end, and he doesn't want to talk about her anymore. That would be the easiest explanation.
Maybe. Yeah. Well, like you said, it'll be interesting to see how they sew that up.
And not just
if
Michael.
If they do at all.
Yeah, not just Michael, but Sarek and Amanda, who we know will go on to be part of the story later. So
I think they've actually managed to nail that fairly well, because even if you look at the Sarek and Amanda stuff in Journey to Babel and that kind of thing, and although actually, because you only get Sarek and Amanda in the first series, and then you get Sarek and Perrin in Next Generation. But
that's right.
The interplay with Sarek and Amanda in the original series there was still a bit of an edge to them to a degree, right? Like Amanda needled Sarek a little bit, so I think that the portrayal that you're getting right now is still fairly accurate.
Yeah.
She's her own woman within this unit and can stand up against Sarek, which is being shown, or was shown in the last couple of episodes.
I guess the other time we see Amanda is in Star Trek 4, right? In those scenes where right after he's got his Katra put back in, and he's kind of relearning his senses and what he knows, and then and they bring back Jane Wyatt for that episode or that movie, and it's the same as played in Journey to Babel. I think that's her only two appearances.
I think so too. Yeah.
So they took a lot from just those two performances, and they kind of established this whole new mythology around Amanda Grayson.
Mm-hmm.
Not just also with the Winona Ryder performance in the prequels and whatever.
Yeah. Speaking
of which, how do you judge this Ethan Peck Spock versus the Zachary Quinto Spock so far?
I'm liking him a little bit more. I wasn't a huge fan of the Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto movies.
No. Well, I mean, Zachary Quinto, though, went and sort of sat at the feet of the Nimoy kind of thing to try and figure out how to do this. And I think it was a more straightforward job for Quinto, because he wanted to be a carbon copy of Nimoy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because there was no wiggle room, there's no interpretation there. This is supposed to be TOS timeline Spock. So mannerisms are supposed to be the same, cadences are supposed to be the same.
Yeah, Quinto can do more with it because it's a different timeline, so his experiences are different. He's not handcuffed, and even in the show, because this show is going on in the late 2250s, and in the Chris Pine movies, they're taking place at the exact same time, and Spock's already a commander when that first movie starts,
which was not the. But how Spock's formative years wouldn't have been affected by the Narada.
Well, they're saying in some way it was, because Spock would have been
his experiences in Starfleet in the Academy would have been different, but his growing up experiences wouldn't have changed, because during from the first appearance of the Narada to the events of the movie. I mean, Nero was stuck in a Klingon penal colony, right? So there was no interaction there.
Right, but think about how many people died when the Kelvin was destroyed, right?
Yeah.
Not just Kirk's father, but other people.
Yeah.
How many lives were changed? What's the ripple effect of that? That's what I always when I looked at the whole J.J. Abrams Kelvin timeline. I was like, I guess, if you change this major incident and how many people were born or never were born because of what happened here. Because in that movie, Chekhov, who plays that guy? Anton Yelchin. His version of Chekhov is much younger than the Walter Koenig Chekhov.
I think he appears younger, but Chekhov was supposed to be...
He says he's 17 in that movie, and Walter Koenig's Chekhov would have been older at this point. So therefore, maybe he has the same parents, but he's a Chekhov. He's a Pavel Chekhov born years after when the one we're familiar with would have been born.
But I think even the Enterprise that Kirk gets to is actually I think the whole thing, because J.J. Kirk never serves on the Farragut, he goes straight from being in the Academy to be pretty much captain of the Enterprise.
Well, he doesn't even join the Academy until he's 25.
Right. So there's a whole bunch of history in there.
Yeah. So all those lives are different in that timeline, and therefore somehow, and so let's say because Spock would have been 3 years old when the timeline changes.
Yeah.
Right. So, but maybe he never has a Michael Burnham in his life, the Zachary Quinto version.
It's a possibility.
Maybe the Klingon attack doesn't happen on whatever, and so because we're filling in the blanks because none of this was planned out when they wrote it, but now that it's all kind of being put onto the story, I'm just trying to reconcile it in my imagination. How could how different is the Zachary Quinto version versus the Ethan Peck / now Nimoy, because they're the same person.
/ Red Angel now too is messing with time.
True.
All of that. So what is that even about?
Yeah, because the Red Angel appeared to him in order to save Burnham.
Yes. So maybe that's where Burnham wasn't really there. Now is there.
So maybe a keystone thing.
I feel like the Red Angel is one of the main characters from the future or something like that, but we'll see.
Someone we know?
I think so. I think it has to be.
What about the comment tonight or in this last episode about Spock saying, is the Red Angel controlling the signals or are the signals controlling the Red Angel? What did you think of that?
It's interesting because, well, all of this is still confusing to me and what exactly it means. I know eventually there are going to be missiles that are going to attack every planet with sentient life. That was what the vision they showed us on Talos 4, right?
And did you think that was a little...
Missiles? Yeah.
Well, I saw something, some kind of lightning beam or something.
By them blaming Control tonight, were they saying it's all wrapped up now? I found that a little too fast, saying that Control wanted to do this.
Well, let's get into the episode because Control was a new concept for me that got introduced in this episode. So coming out of the whole last episode with Talos 4, there was this whole confrontation with Section 31. They tricked them into believing that Michael Burnham and Spock were going with them, but no, they had the Telosians helped them make this illusion so that they got away. So now they're fugitives. They immediately meet up with Admiral Cornwell. She makes her umpteenth return to Star Trek Discovery. She's kind of like the supervisor of whoever is in charge. She's like the regional manager, and so, she comes on, she's like, I gotta give Spock the lie detector. They have sort of this interrogation. She figures out he's being truthful with what he's up to.
But she can't believe it.
She's like, well, hey, the lie detector can't be defeated, but hey, let me show you this recording. She shows it to Pike and Michael, and it's...
look at this deep fake here that I just can't deny.
Here's Spock. Not only did he do his Vulcan Kung Fu... on these mental hospital people staff, but he also shot them with a phaser. He was like, and Pike's like, well, that's not the guy I know. He's much nicer than this. And she goes, well, you can't fake a recording. It's like, it can't be. Look, we've analyzed it everywhere. Even though it's Saru later on in the episode goes, this isn't real. Look at this. There's no heat signatures, nothing. I was like, I don't think Cornwell's much of a scientist. They established earlier on that her background is psychiatry, I think. But anyway, so I don't know how this leads them to. They decide after this meeting they need to go to the Section 31 headquarters. Yes. Cornwell's. This is where we have to go. We have to figure what's going on.
She knew this all along because they couldn't contact them.
They've been locked out of control.
They've been locked out.
Yeah.
That's why she came to Discovery.
So let's get to That's why she came to Discovery?
Yep.
Because she got locked out of control, and they go, "What?" And I think they don't.
And they didn't want to use any regular communication channels or something like that.
Because she was going to arrest Admiral
Patar.
Yes. A logic extremist who is an admiral in
Yeah.
Starfleet?
So is being like a logic extremist, is that like just being like a Pentecostal or maybe like a real serious denomination of a faith?
It's somebody that you work with that wears a MAGA hat.
I don't get it, because she's like in the earlier episode, even though we later learn it's not the real Patar, but it doesn't really matter because she's hanging out with the Tellarite, the Andorian, and the human, and so she's not a xenophobe, but she's a logic extremist. And what does that mean? Usually it means they don't like anybody but Vulcans, right?
Maybe they just don't like anybody but Vulcans on Vulcan. They got no problem working with other people just as long as they don't come to their house.
Maybe. I guess. I don't know. So I'm a little murky on what exactly the logic extremist doctrine is these days.
And she probably thinks in the back of her mind that she's smarter than all of them anyway.
Yeah. Well, logically. That would be the logical conclusion. So this whole idea of control, it's this AI that the admirals use. Every admiral like kind of feeds into this. They don't explain who created it or how it came to be. And I don't think it's ever been referenced. I know it's been referenced in Star Trek novels and some other like apocryphal sources, but I can't remember it ever being talked about.
It's new to me.
Not on the TV shows. I mean, the last real big sort of computer thing that I remember is, what was it?
Memory Alpha?
No. The one where Dr. Daystrom is upgrading the computers in the Constellation class or Constitution
class
ships, and then they all start trying to fire on each other, live rounds.
Oh, is that what? Yeah. That's not an episode I recall very well.
It's not Doomsday Machine. It's something else. But like.
Oh, the original series.
Original series.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking Next Gen. Okay.
So it's not. Yeah, Constellation would have thrown you. So even those computers weren't AI really, but they were sort of like the big thing, right? They were trying to put into the stuff, but it seems like control is very, very advanced.
Yeah, and something that it kind of makes sense when they postulate to you. I'm like, I guess they would have something like this, and why not? And
algorithms and statistical models would make sense for them to have.
But it's an AI, so it's kind of like a Skynet, isn't it? And it's going to turn on you, and maybe that's what's going to try to eradicate life because it turns out to be a malevolent force in this episode, right?
Yes.
So it's definitely like Skynet.
It's definitely like maybe that's what this whole thing is. We have RoboCop, we got the Terminator, we got Skynet, we got all kinds of things in this episode. Anyway, so yeah, they're heading for Section 31, and I think do we even see Ariam in this first part before the credits? I don't think so. I don't think she's really shown. But in the earlier episode, we saw the red twinge on her eye, and we know that she's been sort of hacked going into this episode, and that's going to be an issue. And then after the opening sequence, Miriam in her quarters, kind of going through her memory. So we're seeing who she was,
Ariam?
and
Ariam, yes.
Ariam, Lieutenant Commander Ariam is her name. She is having this is very RoboCop to me. This is very like Alex Murphy kind of accessing his memories. If you go back to like the original 80s RoboCop, deciding what she wants to save and what to keep. And her favorite memories when she was married. And we find out she's a human.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Like, we haven't really known we haven't known anything about her origins really before this episode. So it's kind of established, quickly. She's a human.
Horrible shuttle accident right after getting married. Yeah.
It was right after that.
Yes.
But where do they say that? Is it early in the episode?
A little bit after. After the initial scene, about 5 minutes after. So.
Yeah, she was explaining, I think, to Tilly or something like that there was a shuttle accident. Yeah.
So they recast this part this year because whoever played it last year was somebody else. And I guess they were like...
Yeah, she got pushed into another role because she was actually one of the walk-ons into the engine room when... Culber was getting rebirthed.
Oh, okay. So she's one of the background characters, and so like, well, we got to give Ariam. Everyone's kind of wondering what her deal is, so we're going to give Ariam a bit more more scenery to chew this season. So we're gonna get a more
until now.
Until now,
this episode.
But they probably knew that they were going to do this episode, and and that they wanted somebody with a little more chops, like somebody, just a bit more of a screen presence than whoever they got.
Which I found she had a great screen presence. That's why I'm a little
shocked.
shocked.
I thought it was really interesting, her whole story, learning about her, watching her, like these flashbacks where we're seeing her interact with like Detmer and Tilly and what's her name? The ops officer,
Oswego.
Yeah. Something. It's a tougher one to say. Anyway, but kind of like even though she's like this cybernetic human, she's also kind of got her personality mostly intact. She's not completely like a machine or anything like that. Like
there was enough to salvage after the accident to keep her alive, kind of thing. Right?
I would love to discard all of my like useless memories, like like the stuff you fill your day with, where you're like, who cares?
But
like
your
I don't
brain
need.
naturally does that.
I guess it does that.
It does do that.
But she has to manually go through, and she only has.
She has finite storage.
Yeah, and I wonder, like, the fact that we learn on later on, she's able to upload all her memories. She didn't take any of her memories with her.
With her, yes. Which
to me, like, is she even still her? Then, like, what's her personality exactly? Because like she has this whole conversation right before she dies. Yeah. With Tilly and with the whole crew, really, and Michael, who's there.
Yeah, you have to wonder why she cared so much. Like, if she has no memories of these people. Like, right. Tilly's, like, talking to her and then sending her memories. It's like, it's more machine than person at that.
I would think.
So, it's ones and zeros, right? So they're either there or they're not, you would think, as opposed to having this leftover emotional connection to people. And I'm assuming that these are people that she met after her accident, so that you wouldn't even be able to think that it was like, sort of imprinted on what was left of her brain.
I wouldn't think so. Yeah. I would like to see, like, I know Arium is now gone, but if there's another character like this that they want to bring along down the road, somebody who, maybe has had an accident and has been kind of rebuilt with machinery or whatever.
Well, Detmer's been, but only to
a much smaller extent. Just her eye socket. So and maybe she has abilities because of that we don't really understand.
So who is the Spock? Oh, Spock here, but generally the Spock like Data character
was supposed to be that, I think.
Saru is supposed to be that.
Or Saru?
You think Saru?
Is Saru that person?
Like who's like every Star Trek show has a character that's supposed to be
7 of 9. Yeah.
Data. I would say the Doctor, and it was supposed to be Odo on Deep Space Nine. That was supposed to be like this.
The one that could stand apart and comment on
humanity
and all of our foibles.
And how, it didn't quite work as well on Deep Space Nine.
He was a judgmental.
He was a jerk, and like it's hard to relate to a shapeshifter, and he was not the. I don't know. Like to me, it didn't work as well as it did like in something like all the other series. I guess in Enterprise, I'm trying.
That was T'Pol.
I guess it's T'Pol. Well, it's T'Pol or it's Phlox. Maybe. Phlox is kind of the happy-go-lucky doctor.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the episode. So, yeah.
I just had a question about Arium. I'm a little confused. How much data is in her head? Does she have the sphere's data in her head? And then, so why does she have to download other memories? And that confused me a bit. Where is all that data sitting?
Well, she said that. Well, it's on the. I'm assuming still on Discovery in the mainframe, but she said she could only download 25%, and that's what she was surreptitiously trying to do.
That's from Discovery.
Yeah. Okay. To transmit it while Nan is looking at her from around the corner, going, "You seem shifty."
Oh, see, I was confused about that again. I thought she was downloading herself to Discovery at that point with her hand.
Yeah, no, I think she was.
That was the 25%.
Yeah, and it was a couple of times that she had actually been doing.
So when did she upload her memories to Discovery? When did that happen?
I think when Tilly walked in, she was talking about doing
that. That's when that happened.
But I think it's later in the episode. Yeah,
but she was also she'd also sent off stuff to Control beforehand because there were transmissions to Control, which is how they knew they were going to Control.
Right. She was the one who framed Ash Tyler in the last episode.
Yes.
First sabotaged in the spore drive. That was her.
Yeah. All her.
And Control. Control.
Yeah.
Control is controlling Arium.
Yes. Now, I can't remember when she got hacked.
I remember when the little thing... I remember seeing it. And
it was in the last episode.
It was the last couple of seconds of that episode.
Yeah, but like, what was the method of delivery? Like, I kind of think it was. I thought it was when they had the shuttle deal in the time thing.
And that thing.
And then, the Matrix octopus
deal
the
octopus
came after
thing.
them. So I'm pretty sure that's when she got hacked.
Yep.
But then that would mean that octopus deal is something directly related to Control from the future.
Oh.
I think so too. I think that somehow Control is maybe the big bad of the season. We'll see.
Yeah.
Interesting. We're only starting to learn about it. What, episode 9 into the season? But
Daedalus project or whatever that.
Project Daedalus. That's the last thing she'll say. We'll get to there. Okay,
that makes it even more Matrix-like too, because you get the AI control.
And you saw those things in the Matrix too. Yeah.
Those spinny saw hands.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the next scene, which is Stamets is in the engineering. He's trying to figure out what the spore drive. He's going, this one's good. He's going systematically through. We're across the room. We got Michael and Spock. They're in engineering. They're trying to figure out this Red Angel thing. I guess they had a meeting booked.
Yes.
So
in the engineering room.
Yeah, I don't know. They could have booked a meeting room somewhere else, but this is where it's pissing off Stamets. He's like, I'm trying to do my work, and
well, no, funny. He's talk, because I don't like talking to myself when there's people in here, and then he's like, shut up.
Yeah, I've had enough of this.
Enough of this sibling crap. Please go away.
Yeah, so it's just a lot of them bickering back and forth. That's all I really remember from this scene.
Well, they were starting to dig into the whole crux of their issue between each other.
Yeah.
So they were setting that up.
And that's about it, really. I think then we go to like Ariam and Tilly. They're interacting on the bridge. We're reminded that Ariam's been hacked. We see like the flash of the red eyes,
and she's realizing it at this point, which is why she told Tilly to stay beside her that second time. But then she got took over again and told Tilly to go away, and that's when Nan was like looking at her from around the corner, kind of thing. Going,
there's a certain point where I'm like, Nan, who's I guess he was the security chief
officer. Yeah,
I think I read somewhere where like it's the security officer of the Discovery. Sort of like the professor of the dark arts or the defense against the dark arts at Hogwarts, where it's somebody different every year. Because we originally had, I can't remember, Commander Landry.
Landry. Yeah.
We had Landry on. She got killed from Battlestar Galactica. She got killed by
the
tardigrade.
Tardigrade.
Yeah, I remember she's
the water bearer.
Yeah, this is early on when Michael Byrne gets to the ship. She's like, "We're gonna get this tardigrade. We're gonna get some information." Lorca told me to.
Yeah.
This isn't even the mirror version of her. This is the prime version. She gets totally killed. Then it's Ash Tyler for a while. Doesn't die, but he gets kind of dropped from the position.
Yes.
And now we have her, but she's only on loan from the Enterprise, so presumably it'll be somebody else after her. And she's not even the tactical officer, like tactical/security. She's just a security officer.
Yeah.
So she's kind of like a cop, and she seems to be like kind of watching everybody all the time. She's got nothing better to do. It seems. So she's like, I don't even know how she gets on to Ariam specifically. I'm not sure what Ariam does that gives her suspicion, but she's like such a good investigator /
Well, I think what happened was because Ariam was originally cracking that code for the Ash Tyler's in air quotes transmissions, right? Mm-hmm. And it was proceeding apace there, and then Ariam's switch flips there, and she sabotages it, and that's sort of what tipped Nan off.
Right. Okay. See, this is why I talk about this, so I can just really understand these episodes. So I guess by this point they're still on the bridge, and then they kind of they're pretty close to Section 31. Like they're kind of like doing the preview. When we get there, the Admiral's kind of breaking it down. It's a really fortified base, and then they say, "Oh, are those mines?"
Yes.
Pike is not impressed with mines whatsoever
because they're against the rules
of the Federation.
Yeah,
that's something. But Section 31 and Cornwall's like, listen, like it was a pretty brutal war with the Klingons. I don't know. I know you set it out, but like it was tough, and he starts being quite righteous and idealistic.
Yeah.
And, he's like, if we have to give up our values in the name of security, we've lost before the battle's even begun. And, this is the kind of stuff you want to hear a Starfleet captain.
Yes.
I could hear Picard saying that.
Oh, yeah.
That seems like that's such a Picard kind of a line. And
except after Borgs have been around.
Yeah.
And he gets all, this is the line.
Yeah, this is the line. No further.
No further.
Yeah. So they have and they explain this scene that, we wanted the Enterprise out of the war so that if we lost to the Klingons, you would be like sort of the survivor, I suppose.
Well, because they felt that Enterprise and her officers embodied the highest ideals of Starfleet.
And I agree, but also the Enterprise would have been a powerful ship for them to fight.
Well, presumably there were 12 others.
Yeah, there's other Constitution-class ships, too. And did they all sit out the war? Just the Enterprise.
Just the Enterprise.
Because the Enterprise is the cream of the crop. That's the best ship we have. Pike's the best captain. Yeah. He's on the Mount Rushmore of captains. Like, they kind of established that in Season 1 because I think when Saru's asking the computer for who are the best captains in Starfleet, and they established that Pike's on the list. And Pike is one of the best, and so is Georgiou, and there's a few others.
Yeah.
So let's say the Klingons had won the war. And so what, the Enterprise would have become like sort of the Battlestar of the Federation, where they're like, kind of the last surviving ship?
Well, I would imagine there would have been more ships. It would they would have been the ones that would have tried to coalesce the resistance to the Klingon, what I'm assuming would be a Klingon occupation as opposed to a genocide. Because,
Right. Klingons tend to conquer. They don't, they'll kill a lot of people, but they're not really a genocidal typically.
But you've missed the whole Spock and Burnham 3D chess.
Oh, we'll get there. That's right after the scene. It comes right after the scene. It ends with Cornwall just saying, "Get off my ass." There was bigger things at play, and he's like, "Yeah, I guess." Yeah. So then we get to Spock and Michael. They're in her quarters, and
although I will say Anson Mount's facial expression after she told him why she sat out was really actually quite nice.
Yeah. He was kind of like, "Aw, I am like the best captain, aren't I?"
It was well played.
Like, this is like a time capsule of the best thing we have in the Federation. I get it. You guys are smart. You're an admiral for a reason, Cornwall.
I really like him. I can't even stress that enough.
Yeah. Me too. He's one of my favorite captains so far. And I haven't really got to see 9 episodes I've had of him.
I want him on a spin-off show.
I know.
Yeah. Well, presumably he has to go back to the Enterprise at some point, canonically, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
they can do it. Why can't they?
But Discovery's been renewed for a 3rd season. Yeah. Do they keep Anson Mount around?
They might.
Or do you have this whole thing where it's kind of a revolving door? The show is featured on Michael Burnham, and maybe there's a new captain every year. So Season 1 was Lorca, Season 2 is Pike, and Season 3 is somebody else. What do you do with it?
Be Garth of Izar.
That would be cool. If it was I would love
that.
So you heard that episode where Picard went to like the mental hospital? And
there were 4 of them.
There are 3 lights. What is it? 5 lights or something?
Oh, that one. The Cardassian one.
No. When Kirk went. When Kirk and
Oh, what? Oh, Kirk.
We're talking about Garth of Izar. So they go to this mental institution.
And everyone's in the cells, and the prisoners have taken over.
Yeah, and he has the ability to shapeshift, right, or something.
Something like that. Yeah.
But
Dagger of the Mind, I think.
He was one of the best Starfleet captains ever. Like Kirk mentions, I read about him. He fought the Klingons, before Kirk's time. Maybe in this war that just happened.
Yeah, because he's the protagonist in Axanar.
Yeah. Yes. The Battle of Axanar is like one of his big triumphs, and he was like he's a bit older than Kirk, and he's one of the top guys. Maybe even a little older than Pike, too.
I think he's probably senior to Pike,
Yeah. So I would love it if they brought him in. I've been waiting for that for years. I'm like, I want to know more about Garth of Izar, and is that his name?
Izar is, I think, the name of the planet, so that's why they call him Garth of Izar.
And is that his last name or his first name? And there's a lot of things, you could do a lot with that. Like, that's the kind of stuff, if you're going to set a show in this era, that's what the stuff I want to hear about. I want to, who was Garth of Izar, and what was he up to? You're looking him up?
I just realized what I had beside me.
I really like that episode because he's so diabolical in that episode, and he's just so out of his mind. He's kind of like the Joker.
Yes.
but I know we had the Riddler on Star Trek in the original with the Frank Gorshin, but he was kind of like the real nefarious kind of villain. I loved it. Anyway, let's go back to the Spock and Michael in their quarters. They're having another spat. The details are unimportant, but by the end of it, they come up to this, like, we're going to play chess. Because, he can't solve the problem, right? This is her proposed solution. He can't figure out the logic of, like, why would the Red Angel pick me of all the people in all the galaxy, whatever, that's
what makes him unique.
What makes him unique? And she's like, well, just play some chess. And he's like, you really think the chess is going to be the answer? I thought they should play Calto, because that was the game Tuvok said was the game of logic.
Oh.
So is it possible that Calto came out later? It hadn't been invented yet.
Well, Tuvok's not technically born at this point yet, so it could be. But
3D chess is emblematic of the original series.
And we saw Spock playing it so many times, so we know Spock plays 3D chess. We don't necessarily know if he played Calto or not. So we're going to come back to the chess game, which gets a little really testy.
Really testy.
Yes. Yeah. Ariam and Non are talking. She asks her, "You're a Barzan," so like we already kind of knew she was a Barzan from the Barzan wormhole episode of The Next Generation. So she's like, "Oh, you got that breathing apparatus that helps you breathe in our atmosphere," and she's like, "Well."
There's some foreshadowing for you.
Why are you
obvious?
Why are you asking? Like, to me, like, I would have understood why she's asking that, because she has cybernetic enhancements, and this is another cybernetic enhancement.
And you would think there'd be more than one Barzan in Starfleet.
Yeah. I don't even know what the reason was they were talking for, though. Like, what was the reason? Was Non just checking in on her?
Yeah, I think she was.
I think she's like, I'm policewoman, and I'm going to investigate all the shifty-looking people.
Was that at the point she was downloading, uploading? She was doing something on the computer.
She was.
Yeah.
She was up to something. I just don't know what. They're not quite clear.
Well, maybe she put some thing in the computer if she's accessing something to come.
Well, she would have been part of the investigation into Tyler too, right?
They have there's a little hint there. These two are, she's onto her. Back to the bridge. So Tilly goes, "Hey, Ariam, I need your help." I think this is where she tells her to stay close to her the first time.
Yeah, because she's figured out that something's not right with her.
Mm.
Yeah. It pretty much quickly transitions over, like, "Hey, we're dropping out of warp." Boom. Section 31 base is locking onto us. But you know what? Hold your thought there, because we got a chess game that we've set up here. So they're playing the 3D chess, and she's like, "What are you doing why are you giving up your rook?" And he's like, "Maybe I just don't like rooks." And she's like, "Well, Sarek taught me that move when we were kids." And he was like, "Don't listen, Sarek's a jerk. He's let me down so many times. I let him down." Cycle goes on. Like, it just, this emo Spock, man.
Yeah. Well, the two of them were like prepubescent siblings. I mean, I could see my own kids going at each other just like that. Like, it was well done in that respect. It was almost like the characters were sort of stuck in time.
Mm-hmm.
Like their relationship and how they relate to each other is frozen in that moment that we got to see the pre-episode.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, like it feels like the Spock. It doesn't feel like the Spock I know as much. No. But like, I've never seen him have this dynamic other than maybe in Final Frontier, Star Trek V, where we meet Cybok. And are they ever going to pay that off in this show? I wonder.
Where does he sit in all this?
Because Cybok was from Sarek's first marriage. Yeah. So Sarek was married at least 3 times.
At least 3 times. Yeah.
Right? Okay. The Vulcan princess was Cybok's mother.
Yes.
That's all they explain. I would like to see that, if that's a whole other play on this. But so they have this chess game. What do you make of this?
Yeah.
It was an opportunity for them to actually start trying to figure out what it is that's going on.
Right.
And for us to get a window into what's going on. They seem pretty intractable at the moment, which I think is part of the setup, right? Neither one of them is really willing to. Well, Spock's certainly not willing to give an inch at the moment.
Well, I think in this particular part of their bickering, I think this is where Spock makes the point about what happened with them years ago.
Yes.
Where he's like, you love to put the burden on yourself. You love to be the victim to whatever. And so, like, the fact that, like, you were living with us when we were kids wasn't the reason the Vulcan logic extremists were after us. They were after me. I was the half-breed.
I'm the one that should bear the burden. It was like, there was a whole bunch of, like, no, it's my fault. No, it's my fault. No, it's my fault.
It's kind of her fault, though.
But it kind of is all her fault, isn't it?
Apparently.
I'd say in this particular argument, now, I think he should be able to kind of get past it, but he won't. But I get where he's coming from. He's like, whether or not you had ran off, and I think she was supposed to get eaten by a snare beast, right?
Yes. Jesus, Vulcan is like the Australia of the Federation.
Don't go wandering at night. You're gonna like that thing's like a wild animal on Vulcan.
So lots of stuff that wants to eat you on Vulcan.
That was scary, man. And then so the Red Angel warned him about that, and he
told Sarek and Amanda where she was.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but then he never talked to her again.
Well, see, that's
what doesn't make sense.
That makes for some
6 more years
awkward
living in the same house,
dinners.
And it seemed like Amanda didn't know about it, or the enormity of it, or
in episode I want to say in episode 6, Amanda or 3 maybe it was. I can't remember exactly, but she's like, "Oh, is there something going on between you two?" Oh yeah, it's only been going on for 20 years.
And I'm sorry, like your brother. I probably called my brother bad names, like half-breed, like. You're figuring it over it.
You would think, and Amanda is not having it from Burnham anymore either. No. It's like, holy shit.
Yeah,
no.
There will be no forgiveness.
Amanda doesn't even look like she's old enough to be either of their mothers, but I digress on that. But yeah, I think that's the only thing I take out of that whole chess playing scene is like, Spock's kind of right about that, but he's also like should be more logical and like kind of get over it and not be such a jerk. And he's kind of saying, "Oh, I like being angry. I like these emotions."
Yes,
I'm like this is a hot take on Spock. We'll see how he comes around.
Adolescent Spock again. It's like Saru and his evolution ganglia. And threat ganglia, and Spock is sort of trying to grow into himself.
Mm-hmm.
But they needed to sort of establish what it was, like what that story arc for Burnham, that character growth arc's got to be in order for her to repair the relationship to it.
Yeah.
So.
Back to the bridge. It's yellow alert. We're approaching the Section 31 headquarters. Mm-hmm. They're getting attacked by blade mines.
Blade mines, yes, because they had to go in without shields at first.
Because they were attracted to shields.
Yes.
The mines were attracted to shields, but then they figure, hey, these blade mines, we have to have shields.
We have to have shields.
So they start doing the evasive maneuvers, which just seem to be a bunch of like slow flips. Like that's all I seem to see.
Some nice barrel rolls.
Do Delta 5. Do a Sigma 8. Or not Sigma. 6.
Sigma, yeah.
Yeah, we're all the evasive maneuvers.
Omega 1.
Yeah, whatever. And every time they call out one of these patterns, I'm just like, it just seems to be like either we go up and down or we spin or whatever. But, whatever. So this is where Non is continuing her investigation of Arium. She's, like, they're getting attacked by blade mines, but she's like looking at her and going,
the side eye.
This doesn't seem right. She seems to be up. She's up to something. I don't trust her. The ship's getting beat up. So Michael's like, you know what? This seems like a computer system. We have to like not do the obvious pattern. We got to do like chaos. We got to do Omega 4, or whatever pattern, which just seems to be the same, more of the same from what I can tell from the action sequence.
If it's got a name, how is it random?
Well, I think it's. I mean,
or is that?
You go back to the whole. If one person's doing it, most people can't generate truly random things, right? So that's why having everybody else call out evasive maneuver patterns. That's where the randomness comes in because that next person is not necessarily going to make the same judgment that you would have.
Yeah, exactly. But it's also what seems to be indicated here is that Arium is sort of feeding control with this information.
It seems like it, yeah.
Yeah, she's kind of like, this is what they're going to do next, so you're going to do this and whatever.
Okay, I'm going ahead. Okay.
Yeah. Well,
Control wanted them to come, right?
I guess.
Yeah, I guess he was just making it seem good. It can't be too easy.
Right. This is where Admiral Patar hails.
Yes.
So we get her on the screen, and so it's Pike and Cornwall, mostly doing most of the talking on the Discovery side. And then we got Patar on the other side, and they're like, "What's going on? Why are you attacking us? We're a Federation starship." She's like, "Guess what? The Federation Council sent down this order." And Pike's like, "Oh yeah, let me talk to them, because if they want to attack me, I want to give them a piece of my mind." And you're the biggest fugitives in the Federation. You got Spock. He killed a bunch of people at the mental hospital, and he knows about the red dots. So hey, what do you want us to do? So I guess they have this whole conversation. They kind of tell her off, and then Cornwall says, "We got to get onto that station." Why are they going to the station?
To arrest Patar and reset
okay.
control.
Right.
Yep.
Because they know control, something's wrong with it.
Yes.
Okay.
Because it's not accepting inputs anymore. So they're trying to do stuff, and they're not getting any feedback. So they're thinking that I don't understand why they're hanging it all on Patar. Because there are other admirals there too, but
she's like the lead admiral.
Maybe, yeah. So they're and a logic extreme.
But they're the Section 31 admirals,
yes,
specifically
overseeing Section 31.
So Section 31's not part of Starfleet, but they answer to admirals.
They're part of Starfleet.
Well, right? In Deep Space Nine, they're not supposed to be, and I
in this
think
they definitely are.
In this, it's kind of a gray area. Like they're sort of military, but they're not.
They're kind of like special ops for Starfleet.
Because Tyler wears the black badge, right?
Yes.
And so he's sort of...
Well, yeah, and they don't call them officers or agents, right?
They're agents.
Yes.
The agents.
So it's kind of being like CIA.
A little bit, yeah.
I guess. But you still wear a Starfleet uniform.
Well, not on the ships.
Not on the ships, but if you're Tyler on the Discovery, you do.
Well, because Pike's a little bit,
Hey, you're gonna wear a uniform, but you're gonna wear the black badge.
And they're not serving on a Section 31 ship.
And then he's gonna tap it. He's like, "What the hell is that?"
Get all the best toys.
What the hell? You're tapping the badge? That's a comm badge. I guess whether they're prepared. So before they decide they're gonna hatch this whole plan to go over the station, we get Stamets and Spock talking in engineering again. In the spore drive room. They're talking about their problems. They're kind of, so Stamets is kind of saying, you're kind of, Michael cares about you and etc. And I think Spock brings up his woes with Culber.
Yeah. He drops a knowledge bomb on Stamets.
What does he say to him?
Well, he says that Culber's not leaving because he doesn't love Stamets. Or doesn't know Stamets, but maybe he doesn't know himself. And Stamets is too close to see that. Yeah,
well, that seems obvious to me, too. Because, if I came back from the dead, and I'm not even convinced that Culber is Culber. Or maybe he's like a copy of Culber, but I don't think he's the original Culber.
Well, I think he realizes he's a copy of...
Yeah.
Because he talks about how he doesn't have the scar that he had as a child. So he's kind of a clone.
He's a clone.
Yeah, he doesn't feel the same.
Same memories, but...
Yeah.
It's a new body.
Right.
New experiences, and then it comes into the whole Arium thing, right?
Yeah. What makes you you?
What makes you you? That's a little bit of what this show seems to be exploring a little bit.
Yeah, but Stamets has never let Culber go, right? So the idea that he's finally got him back and then he's going to leave again, that's not something that anybody who was actually in it would be able to see.
Right.
You kind of need to go.
Right, and what the thing is too is we didn't get a lot of Wilson Cruz as Culber in season 1. Like we got a fair bit, but not in terms of we really know this character. We know what he was like before, so we can definitely tell he's different now. There's just not enough really, other than he'll start a fight in the mess hall with you. He's
and Saru is okay with that.
Saru's okay with that. So there's only about that aspect of it. Where this Wilson Cruz Culber that we're gonna get, I'm like, it's kind of a blank slate, mostly. Yeah. He was more of a nice, kind of easygoing guy before. Now he's a little bit more uptight. Seems to be the only difference. A little more aggressive.
Well, he was the humanizing factor for Stamets in the first season because Stamets was so uptight.
Yeah.
Right, and so standoffish.
Right, and just kind of like this misanthrope who just doesn't like anybody.
But then so he had Culber to sort of make sure that people will come to dinner parties. But then Culber leaves and Tilly becomes that for him.
Yes.
Tilly's the one that sort of, gave him his heart kind of thing.
Like, I was thinking about, like, who are my least favorite characters on the show right now? I think Stamets is among them, because I don't really understand what he does other than, I get, like, he's the navigation thing that hooks into when they want to jump around or whatever, but...
Well, I think he himself knows he's a bit of a loose end. He's not supposed to be there anymore. He was going to go to the Vulcan Science Academy. There's not a place for him right now with no mycelial network deal, which makes it harder for him to, like, he's there for science, and math apparently, but he plays the straight man to Tilly too, and helps her. So he's become more of a support. I think they've kind of that dynamic is flipped.
I get with the personality part of it, but it's just like in Star Trek is always about, like, we have people. Everyone on the ship has a job, right? Somebody has some purpose to play with. Like, this is what we have to do to problem solve whatever the issue is. And so, unless it's jumping the ship around, I don't really know what Stamets has to do on this show, other than maybe get Spock advice once in a while or.
Isn't Ariam like a spore drive person too?
She's an ops officer for the spore drive.
Yeah,
so
she has nothing to do either.
Well, they seem to give her things to do. In this episode especially, they're throwing all Tilly was throwing a lot of. Tilly just gives all of her homework to Ariam. It seems like mostly.
I think Stamets is still around for Tilly. That's it.
Yeah, just to play off each other.
Yeah,
he's the main character on this show, so
yeah.
I just think for a main character, you gotta give this guy more to do.
Well, I think that you're probably gonna have an episode coming up that sort of focuses on the Stamets Culber thing to try and move that forward. I would hope, anyways, because there was so much put into it, so much build up to it, and fan support for Culber as a character is quite strong.
Yeah,
right. So
and for them as like a couple, right?
Yeah. So they really do have to give it more due than it's currently getting.
Yeah, I see that. I don't know. I'm waiting for like them to. Like, I really liked Stamets in the Harry Mudd time loop episode. I thought that was probably his best performance of season 1. And there was like the part where Culber dies, and he's like, they have a few scenes there, and then but mostly I like when Stamets is a dick. I kind of like when he's being a jerk, and he's kind of like the smartest man in the room, and and that's the Stamets I kind of want more. Not this like tempered by compassion so much.
Not one who's learned from his pain.
Yeah, I don't need. No. I don't want him to learn from his pain at all. I don't want him to be mopey anymore. They get
character growth.
The big reason I want them to bring Culber back to life was I'm like, I just don't want mopey Stamets. And now Culber's back to life, and he's even mopier.
He's more mopey, yes.
Okay, so we're back. We're in like Pike's ready room after this point, and they're talking about we're gonna go over there. We're gonna get the mission access control. Non wants to go. Burnham's going. Ariam says I want to go too because I can get in there. So this becomes the makeshift away team that they're gonna send over. They have to go over in environmental suits, and they beam in. They kind of go, this isn't right. This doesn't seem right. Everything is off. They find some blood floating around, hey, guess what we found? Dead admirals. Well, at first they don't know they're admirals. They just think they're Starfleet officers. But they go, these people have been dead for 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. What's the significance of 2 weeks? Why?
So what's happened in the last 2 weeks?
What's happened in 2 weeks?
Actually, probably the whole season.
Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah,
it seems rather specific.
And Spock and
if
escaping.
The emergence of Control as a malevolent force triggers the Red Angel, then the death of the admirals at the hands of Control would be the thing that would start the ball rolling on the season. So that's your 2 week time frame.
2 weeks.
That's possible. It's possible, yeah. I'd say.
I'm saying the death of the admirals is what kicked off the events.
Red Angel coming to help.
Right. So it's not just Admiral Patar, but her compatriots, one Andorian, one Tellarite, one human.
Yes.
Right. especially like the one with the leg that was frozen in a certain position. But yeah, for 2 weeks they've been dead. And they go, well, if she's dead, then who was I talking to earlier? And they go, what? Suru's already figured this out.
So conveniently. He's like,
I figured this out right at the right moment.
Right now.
Guess what? When you were talking to her earlier and you were telling her off, she should have blushed a bit. And she didn't. Her heat signature was.
But he was on to her before the away mission started because Pike told him he was going to go, and he said, I have something here I need to work on."
Oh.
Is that what happened?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember when he said that. I thought Pike was an excellent captain. Then he's like, okay, you do what you got to do. I thought that was great leadership.
Yep.
And trust
All
of
right,
his.
you got something better to do? All right.
Yeah, I trust you.
No problem. I'll work on this. You work on that.
That's a great
Divide
captain.
and conquer.
Yeah.
That's what I say. So this immediately solves the mystery. Hey, what? Spock didn't kill those people. That was a hologram too.
Yes. There's no change in the ultraviolet of them.
But they said that like earlier on, Cornwall says this can't be faked.
Yeah, I know.
Right? This recording, it can't be faked.
Well, my thing with it is they can't be holograms either, because holograms require some kind of projection system. I'm assuming Spock's sanitarium room did not have holographic emitters in it.
Yeah, not like the holodecks that we know.
Right. So it was more like 20th century CGI.
Yeah.
So it was all done in system kind of thing.
23rd century.
23rd century CGI. Because the hologram communicators thing between the ships is not all that great, right?
Yeah,
right, because it wasn't in season 1 we saw Lorca and Tyler sort of having a pseudo battle simulation with Klingons, but it was kind of like a makeshift holodeck. It wasn't super.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm talking about like their communications, rather than using the screen, putting it on screen.
Yeah, like the admiral that was going to die at the Battle of the Binary Stars. There, he was being they were talking sort of face to face.
But Pike prefers to use old school.
Yeah.
Talk old school ways.
Although,
they've mentioned that.
Am I right in remembering that there was something in the back of the like on Enterprise, in the back of the NX-01 bridge, they were gonna hook up some kind of holographic thing too, and then it got trashed.
Maybe?
Enterprise series?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe. I know that they toyed with it for one episode of Deep Space Nine.
Uh-huh.
I think it was the episode where he's chasing Eddington, right?
No, yeah.
Where they're like, oh, we installed this new holo.
Yeah.
And they used it in one other episode. I think the one where we found out Bashir was a genetically modified person. And after that, they never used it. Because I guess they were just like, you know what? People just understand, like, hey, it's the screen. It's like a Skype call. I'm looking at you. You're looking at me. Whatever.
Yeah.
It just seems to be easier. I don't know. Even in the 23rd, 24th century, I think that could still be better than having these, like, kind of...
like actual projections of people?
To me, and I think the thing is that that's such like a Star Wars thing. Like they had it first.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's almost like, we're cheating a little bit here. Like Star Trek is just people talking on screens, and it's fine. It works fine. It works fine. We don't need to I get like the temptation, like, oh, we're gonna have a hologram, and it's gonna be like he's in the room with you. Well, then he feels like he's in the room with me, and I don't feel like he's over there.
Yeah.
That's the problem with this communication style.
Well, I guess if that was the case too, if you take it to its next logical conclusion, why would you bother having like forward view screens at all, even really, when you can put up a holographic projection of what's in front of you?
Yeah.
And then think about that from like the navigator's perspective, where you can actually see like it's 3D, so there's depth and that kind of
right.
thing.
And Babylon 5 did that, where you kind of go into a room and you would just see, like, it would be like you were in space, like you're floating in the middle of the battle, right?
Yeah.
Or
they
whatever
had
you're
Generations too. Was it? Yeah, the stellar cartography room.
Yeah, a little bit. Not quite to the same extent as like what Babylon 5. Babylon 5 would just be like you're in the middle of this battle and like you can see everything. You're just like, hey, those ships over there, go over here.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it would, from a battle perspective, it made a lot of sense for like a general to be able to kind of like see everything around him versus looking on monitors. But anyway.
We digress.
We digress. We go into some Battlestar. We go into some Babylon 5. It's all good. This is where in the point of the episode where Tilly flags the thing. Guess what? Ariam's downloaded all of her memories into the system. I think they kind of connect a couple quick dots and they go, Ariam's compromised. They figure this out pretty quickly. not quite sure how I felt that was skipped over very quickly. But anyway, Pike says to Michael, like, is Ariam around? Because you need to get out of there now.
Well, that's also because Ariam was starting to beat the crap out of them.
Well,
she was standing against the wall.
It happens like right at that time, right when they go, stop Ariam from whatever she's doing.
Okay,
find her and stop her. They immediately they get into like kind of this real brutal fist fight. Yeah. She's kind of possessed by like whatever's going on. I think she rips off Non's breather apparatus to kind of takes her out of the fight. And so it's just this boom, boom, whatever. Eventually, Burnham fights her off, sort of fights her behind this airlock door and closes it. Mm-hmm. And she, we realize that it's controlling Ariam.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I guess Tilly tries to reach her over the comm. She's like, "Oh, you adore me. You've got every sweet memory of me ever." Which is kind of set up in this episode that they have some kind of a special relationship, and somehow that's able to reach her. Doesn't really matter. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me because she had no memories apparently.
Yes. So why would there be anything to reach?
Yeah.
Like that. That's the thing about the whole Ariam thing that makes me kind of nuts. In that, like, if you don't have memories, then you who you are.
Well,
there's no,
or just say you could. They could have said she copied her memories.
Right, but then if they're not in her head anymore, which is what they said, then how? Like, did she keep enough to still have feelings for these people or recognize them?
That's right. Like, why wouldn't you just? Okay, so back to I don't understand what's inside her head. Why not just copy her memories? Why did she need the space?
Because they established that she only has a certain amount in her hard drive.
Yeah.
Right. So in order to take all of the information from the asteroid thing that
she did put that in her head when she went on to. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think back to on the short we saw before the season with Calypso, where we have the computer that the AI that. Yeah. That's not the normal Discovery computer, I don't think.
No.
And that it falls for, I can't remember his name anymore, but the guy. The Odysseus character of sorts. Is that her, maybe? Is that like what's left over of Ariam on Discovery's database that's interacting with him later, like in that short?
Perhaps.
Although
did she know? Had she been a human?
Yeah, that's the thing.
Has she ever danced before?
Well, yeah, she was married.
No. But the computer.
No, I'm saying
1,000 years ahead.
But I'm saying that computer is Ariam.
Yeah.
Or the copy of Ariam.
Right, but it doesn't seem to have any human motivations, kind of thing. Like it's trying to understand what it is to have a relationship. Like it's. And you would think that if it's a copy of Ariam, then she would already know these things.
True.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll see how
we'll see how that plays out.
It's just a theory. A theory.
Maybe she could. No. Anyway. Yeah.
But they're able to. Tilly's somehow able to reach Ariam for a moment. She kind of goes, "I'm under control. I'm gonna kill you. You gotta open the door."
She's gonna kill Michael.
Michael more specifically.
Yes, because it's all her fault.
Yes.
And she needs to be airlocked and I'm presuming that Disco still has functioning transporters.
I don't get this. I don't understand why they couldn't stop her.
Between that and the point about taking their helmets off in something where in the starbase there where everybody is frozen solid.
Yeah, they go, guess what, guys? We got gravity and atmosphere back. Take your helmets off. Yeah. Leave your helmets on. It just seems like
apparently they have instant on heat.
This is the first thing I would write into the Starfleet manual of on-away missions. If you're going into a hostile atmospheric environment, just leave your helmet on.
Yeah.
You're not going to run out.
Exactly. Just in case.
Yeah.
Did they say anything about when they beamed in that they were going to a section of the what was it, a starship or whatever, that maybe they couldn't transport out? Did they say anything
none of that was established.
No.
There was no the transporter won't work. They could have said, just beam her to the brig.
Yeah.
or you're going into a bulkhead area and we can't beam you out after this.
None of that was set up.
They didn't say that at all?
They just
Nothing?
established which deck on the former penal colony.
Yeah.
Former penal
colony.
Right, because this was a prison. This Section 131 base was a prison at some point.
So maybe it was shielded in parts that you couldn't beam people out because it was a prison.
But how'd they get over there?
Maybe the
an access port or something like that.
Yeah. So, Too much yada yada on this. These are just little logistical things you have to like kind of talk through, in my opinion. Anyway, there's this real heartfelt thing, like Michael doesn't want to jettison her. Finally, Pike gives her the order. This is where I'm like, she has to do it. She knows what
it's Michael Burnham. She's gonna use her eyebrows. Like so many long shots on her face.
I know. She loves to
emote.
I'm just like, that whole episode, which we didn't cover on the podcast, but that whole episode where Saru was dying, or she thought Saru was dying.
That reminded me of that.
Before it just turned out he had to get a haircut with his ganglia. That was awful. I was watching this episode. I was like, I don't want to even cover this. I can't even cover this. But here, I'm going to talk about it.
What's happening?
Like this Saru dying for what felt like 20 minutes. This was not working for me. Like Burnham just oh no, and then guess what? He's not going to die anyway. So what was all that about then? Yeah. I get it would be sad if he died. I guess they know each other. They worked together for a long time. They have a close relationship.
They've come back from adversity. The whole mutiny deal and stuff.
I get it, but it's too much. It was too much.
It's too much.
It was too too many
so
layers.
I felt like they were going to do that again. I was like, good, goodbye, it's over. When she went out in the airlock.
Anyway, well, she went to prison for 6 months for disobeying orders. So if I was Michael Burnham and Pike gives me the order, I'm pushing the button. No questions asked. I'm doing it because that's what you do. That's chain of command, right? Unless you can say unless you have an alternative and say, why don't you just beam her out of here? Mm-hmm. Or as soon as I hit the button, beam her.
Then beam her. Yeah. Why didn't they do that?
Unclear.
We got body coming out. Let's beam her in.
It's not clear why they didn't do it. But right before though, she finally does get jettisoned. She says, "Find Project Daedalus." Daedalus. Yeah, whatever it is. She said, "Find it."
Yeah.
And then Non's like, "See you later. See you never."
Yeah. Non's not having none of this.
That's in credits.
Credits.
Well, she's dead.
Well, no, she gets to replay her favorite memory first. Tilly sends off her husband.
Her husband. They were married for 5 minutes.
Yes. And then tragically almost killed in a shuttle accident.
Yeah, and then
I'm assuming one of them was killed in a shuttle accident.
I'm assuming he died.
He died, yeah.
Maybe he would come back and he's Robot Man, and then it's a whole other thing. Well, we'll see. Anyway, that was Project Daedalus. We gotta find it next episode. Mm-hmm. Feels like the next episode should have been called Project Daedalus. Daedalus.
So what does it all mean?
But overall, I think one of the better episodes of the season, or even of the series. I think that the fact that this Ariam's been sort of like this mystery character we've been intrigued by. Just for the give her this real feature episode and kill her right at the end.
Kill her.
Yeah.
When it felt like he could have saved her. It didn't feel like she had to die for this.
She did not have to die.
You'd think with all the extraordinary measures they went to save Tilly from the mycelial network, all the stuff that because no one gets left behind. They're like, no, just airlock.
This is Starfleet. Pike said it in a few episodes. This is Starfleet. No one gets left behind, except if we have to.
If you look at the what's coming next week kind of thing, they do give her a photon torpedo send off.
Oh,
do
they? I didn't see that. Okay.
Yeah. They collect her body.
Yeah.
Long after. I'm assuming they could figure out how to transport her
at that time.
Yeah. Right. I guess we could have just beamed her off.
And it wasn't like she's immediately dead. She got time to watch that memory. They could have beamed her.
Could have beamed her.
She's
not going to die as fast as a normal human would in space. She did die, but unclear. Whatever. Anyway, so
what's going to happen next week? So
Control.
Michael's important. Control still wants to do what it wants to do.
The search for Daedalus. That's going to be
this project. Time trial. There's something.
What does Daedalus mean? Does anyone have a?
It's a Greek myth.
Of what?
So Daedalus was a scientist, inventor, right? So Daedalus and Icarus.
Okay. Is this the one who flew too high to the sun?
Icarus, his son, flew too high to the sun.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, the wings of wax. So which also
didn't they mention that earlier? Or that was early.
It's been used in so many movies. And shows.
Okay, maybe
you fly.
Yeah.
There was a class of ship, Daedalus class of ship. That was the one that was primarily fought the Romulan War.
Oh, you mean like between Enterprise and this? Okay.
So I mean, I can't imagine that it would have anything to do with that, but it's got the whole celestial winged overtones with it, because that's what Daedalus is most known for. But he was also, I think, he devised the maze that the Minotaur is trapped in.
Okay.
So
on
Crete.
All right. So how does this tie into Control, though?
Does that myth tie into Red Angel, a winged angel at all? Like, kind of at all?
Maybe.
Or wax wings?
Yeah. Well, somebody's going too high to the sun at some point, I'm guessing. I don't know. I mean, it could have been the Genesis for Control.
Okay.
Yeah. I think this is a bad idea. The Federation, I think they can have a computer, but an AI. We just saw not to spoil Captain Marvel too much, but in Captain Marvel, like the Kree, they have their leader. They don't have like an elected leader. They literally have
the Supreme Intelligence.
The Supreme Intelligence, which is an artificial intelligence that leads their whole society. And that's kind of what Control feels like. It's a little bit.
Yeah.
But like Cornwall says, well, yeah, we plug our information, it gives us recommendations,
like
but we decide.
I took it like more a think tank, like you remember.
Yeah, it tells us kind of like this is what we think you should do or whatever, but the admirals ultimately make the call.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't. It's funny they call it an AI, but they use it more like a statistical model or a machine, like a supercomputer that works with algorithms. So what it does is analyze data and spit out answers or predictions, but that's not AI. So like they're like any predictive modeling or anything like that would all be defined by what was programmed in. So where this sort of spark of sentience comes in, because that's the other thing that I'm having an issue with Control is like, how does it acquire motivation? And how does it then decide that it needs to go all Skynet on all of sentient life, and why?
Yeah, there's a lot to pay off here. And how many more episodes do we have?
I think 5. I think we got a 14.
There's a lot to tie up here.
It's gonna be fast and furious.
Like, okay, Red Angel, got to figure it out. 7 signals, what they all mean. Why is Spock involved?
Why is Burn?
What's Control up to? Why is Discovery in particular so important? Is it just because?
That's because of Burnham.
It's because of Burnham.
Yeah.
I think it's all Burnham.
The whole series of events was set into motion in order to save her, to have her on Discovery, to avert this particular crisis.
Okay. Because like the way that this whole season was set up is that like Discovery's on their way to Vulcan to get their new captain. Along the way,
they decide to embark on the search for Spock.
So at this same time, the Enterprise, in command of Pike, has broken down.
Convenient. Yeah.
Totally
broken down. Can't
use
it.
To be towed into dry dock.
Yeah.
The flagship of the
They don't know
Federation.
what exactly happened. Like, it's a mystery. Yeah.
Pulled in Excelsior.
I don't even understand why they pulled them from the war, because if, like, what would have happened was if they had not participated in the war and the Klingons had one, they would have just broken down and been an easy target by the looks of it.
Well, the other question is was that's like that huge systematic failure in the ship a result of something going on in the season, Is
Control the reason the Enterprise,
or is it the Red Angel kind of thing?
Yeah,
maybe
quietly doing something.
So that means that someone wants Pike there.
No, that does make sense because they sent Enterprise to see the first signal.
Yeah.
Right, or when they all appeared, because I think that's what happened. They all appeared, and then they started reappearing. So they sent Pike and Enterprise to investigate the original 7 signal sighting. that's when the ship was disabled.
Yeah. But then Pike took command of Discovery.
Right.
Is it just because Discovery happened to be the closest ship at the time?
Probably.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And it didn't have a captain.
Conveniently.
And
it just has this one-of-a-kind spore drive that no other ship has. Okay. Yeah. All right.
It's thin, but we'll go with it.
Sure, yeah, I guess.
I mean, if you're gonna figure out how to tell Spock that Burnham's gonna be eaten by a giant, what the hell was it called?
Well, I don't know. It had a name.
It did, yeah.
It was kind of. It looked like a cactus monster. It was kind of like that one that chased Chris Pine in Star Trek. 2009
on the frozen planet.
Yeah.
That was very red.
I used to call it the
excellent camouflage on a frozen planet.
On a frozen, and then got eaten by the bigger thing. Right.
And found Spock.
And then, yes.
I had a special name for that monster, but I won't say on the podcast. But it's
oh no.
Yeah, okay. I know.
Looked like from Captain Marvel, the Flurkin, or
yeah, it kind of looked like a Flurkin.
Yeah,
it was a Flurkin. Yeah, you haven't seen Captain Marvel.
No.
Yeah. Anyway, I didn't see the next on, but you're saying they're giving Ariam a send off.
Yes, a funeral. They're gonna commit her body to the
deep of space.
The deep of space.
Okay. Anything else?
I wonder if hers will have been the most human soul that Pike has. Yeah.
I think I predict a Tilly eulogy.
A Tilly eulogy, yes, yes. The heart of the show needs to speak.
I'm up and down on Tilly, but you know, like in some scenes she works for me. Like I think that the scenes she works best for me is when she's being smart. Yeah. When she's showing her, like, she's a valuable asset to this crew. Mm-hmm. But the rest of the time where she's just being like this kind of goofy, like, I don't know. Nervous.
I don't like the nervous scenes as much.
That stuff doesn't bother me so much. I think they're relying on her a little too much, though, to move things along. Like, she's almost like this, she's too powerful kind of thing at the moment. You know, it's like, I know how to fix the spore drive. Yeah. I know how to talk to Ariam. I know how to, lasso a giant chunk of asteroid that weighs 17 million times more than it's supposed to. Like, it's just getting a little too Wesley Crushered.
Yeah.
Speaking of, do you realize that Will Wheaton is now the age that Patrick Stewart was when he started Next Generation?
That is frightening. That is frightening.
No way.
No. Really?
Picard was like in his. I heard this. Yeah, he's in his 50s.
Yeah.
How old's Will Wheaton?
Well,
Wheaton's
younger than I am.
40s.
Yeah. He's younger than you?
I think he's younger.
I saw that in the last couple of days, but no way.
Yeah, we gotta look this up.
Picard was in his 50s. 55. Will Wheaton's 45.
We can't leave the listeners in suspense like this. It can't be done. It doesn't seem right because, okay, I want to say that Patrick Stewart was in his 50s when he started. 54.
Oh, Will Wheaton is 47 years old. 47? He's 2 years older than me.
Okay, so Patrick Stewart was born in 1940. So in 1987, he was 47.
What?
Patrick Stewart's born in 1940.
Yeah. So
Next Generation started in 1987.
Yeah.
So therefore, in 1987, he's 47.
So Dave is right. Oh my God.
But he was a weathered 47, Patrick Stewart.
Yes,
in 1987, right?
Yeah, well, I think the thing with Patrick Stewart is that he looks the same now as he did then. Pretty much.
Yeah. So he basically, from the time he was 47 to the time of now, mostly, he kind of looks the same.
Actually, if you even look at him in Dune and Excalibur, he looks kind of the same.
He looked the same.
Dune's like what, like a couple years before Next Gen?
Gotta be
more. Yeah.
Next Gen. Oh, back to Wikipedia.
Dune.
Okay, but I always thought that's the thing with that show is that Patrick Stewart is already
84.
So that's 3 years before that. So he was.
What was his name in Dune?
This is the you got to think about. He was 44 when he did Dune.
Yeah.
Younger than me.
Yeah, Patrick Stewart.
Yeah.
But okay, he was bald and he was already had the gray horseshoe at that point, right?
Yep.
So he looked like he was in his 50s at least.
Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just know I'm younger.
Well, there's also that meme making its way around where it's got the picture of the adult Will Wheaton from that Next Gen episode.
Oh yeah.
He's
when like Q like ages him.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's like it showed that guy versus Will Wheaton now.
No, big difference. Yeah, I remember that.
Because they were like, guess what, Wesley? You're gonna fill out. You're gonna be a big beefcake of a man.
He did not get any taller.
No.
Or bulkier.
Or more shoulder. He just...
Yeah. You were gonna be a bodybuilder in the future.
Puffy.
No. He is a lovable nerd.
Anyway, so we're gonna leave this off. I think I have no idea where they're going next. I guess they're gonna chase a computer, is where they're going. So they got to get to the bottom of why Control is malevolent against them,
and why is someone trying to help them.
And then why is the Red Angel talking to Spock and all that. Like, here's a theory for you. I bet you the Red Angel is Spock from the future,
but looks like a girl.
Yeah, with hips and
hips.
There's hips.
Oh, there's hips. Yeah.
Okay. Damn.
Those hips
it's a female. It's a female figure for sure.
It's Burnham from the future.
Maybe,
but it'd have to be from the far future. Like, there's got to be some. They'll have to come up with something like there's a resistance, and it took them 100 or 300 years to get to the point. This is
very Terminator.
Yeah, it is. It is. But I think the whole Control thing though will actually probably work canonically nicely as to why Section 31 in Deep Space Nine, because I can imagine right after this, Section 31 will cease to exist.
No. Isn't Georgiou getting her own show?
Yes, but I bet you after they deal with Control, it'll be like an underground deal. There'll be like
it
rogue
won't
agents.
be part of Starfleet.
I don't need it. I don't need this Section 31 show. The Section 31 is not something that I want to get a first-person take on. That's for sure.
Well, you never know. You never know.
They're a villain to me.
More Star Trek is better.
They're not a good guy, and so
they're anti-heroes. I mean, they don't care how the job gets done, but there is a job that they're trying to do.
They're garbage men. Like they do the dirty work.
They're CIA.
All right. Necessary evil. I say I'm with Pike. I'm like the minute what is that quote? Let's find it.
Yeah. Our ideals. We've lost the battle.
Lost.
Where is it?
No.
The minute we give our values in the name of security we lose the battle. That's what I say. I'm with Pike.
Yes, but human history and human nature tells you that most people are okay with doing that as soon as the chips are down.
That's the Janeway approach. That's the pragmatism.
Yeah.
Just got to compromise. Anyway, hoping to do this again next week. We got to do Star Trek Discovery Season 2, Episode 10. Don't know the title yet. We'll see where this goes. I'm back in. I'm back in too. I'm
definitely back in.
Yeah, I had a couple rough episodes in there. I think
even for last week, I think I went 4 or 5 days. I'm like, nope, not watching it today. Which is like,
I was watching the Orville first.
Or watching the Orville, watching Grey's, watching
Big Brother,
and it just like I don't know. I was so I guess episode 7.
The one with Saru. The one with Saru dying slowly for 40 minutes.
I'm back in.
That was the one that really sucked my soul out.
The Baul came for you.
That was before the Baul. That was what their name was. The Baul. Yeah, the swamp people.
Yes.
Remind me of the Ring girl. The Ring girl coming out of the TV, just stringy coming down. It reminded me of the Ring.
That was all practical effects too.
Yeah.
Which was done really well.
Oh.
Because they were scary.
Yeah.
I just liked it when Ensign Mount, Pike, was like, this guy is our people, Baul. He is one of our people. We're going to defend him and screw you. Like, that's what I like. I want uncompromising, idealistic captains. Yeah. That's what I need.
Yeah.
Who are going to stand up to the bad guys.
That's my Star Trek.
That's my Star Trek. I don't need the pragmatism. I don't need this Section 31 Michelle Yeoh. We're gonna do the dirty work.
But your Star Trek was only for the original series and Next Generation. Yeah. It started moving.
I know.
Oh, absolutely.
I know, but like Starfleet was always supposed to come back to the good parts. And,
yes.
Right, and there was Section 31, but they were the extremists. They were the bad guys. They were the ones who were wrong. And now it's like, maybe they're kind of got a point. And I'm like, no. Yeah. We need this. I say no. Anyway, that's been Live Long and Podcast. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Good night.
Good night.